Hello, 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 and welcome back to yet another NFL draft video. We're almost done, man. It's this shit took twice as long as I thought it would. I was defeated by the grind. 8 videos in 8 days was foolish. I'm cooked. But anyways, I need a fucking shave too, by the way. But let's get right in the fucking video, man. AFC West today. Let's just get right into it, man. AFC West, possibly the best drafting division. Let's get right into it, man. Starting off with the Chargers, obviously, new head coach coming in. They lost a lot of their established offensive weapons, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. It's basically a brand new look offense. So let's see how they adjusted through the draft. First off, they took Joe Alt with the first pick, number 5 overall. This was the first shock of the draft because the entire process, everybody was saying, is it Brock Bowers or is it Malik Neighbors? Nobody thought, well, maybe some people thought, nobody that I saw thought Joe Alt was even a possibility. And that's what the Chargers did. And that is a Jim Harbaugh pick right there. Build through the trenches. You know, it's an amazing pick. I can't hate on it. And at first, I gave this an A minus, right? But after seeing what they did the rest of their draft in terms of getting a haul in terms of wide receiver talent, I said I had to retroactively go back and say, you know what? This is actually an A instead of an A minus because while I still personally might have gone with a Brock Bowers, for example, I can't deny the fact that they just got their franchise left tackle for the foreseeable future. So I love this pick in hindsight now after I sat on it for a couple weeks. Number 34, I believe they traded. Did they trade up for this pick? They might have. Lad McConkey at number 34. I gave this an A as well. While it may not be, the A.D. Mitchells, the Troy Franklins of the world, Lad McConkey does a lot of things well. And it's between the numbers, but he's not just the typical small slot receiver. He's a big slot receiver. And on top of that, he has the speed and he is a vertical threat. He stretches the field. He really has the size of an outside guy playing in the slot. I like his physicality. He's a really versatile weapon. I really like you pairing him up with a Quentin Johnston. I feel like Lad McConkey may very quickly become Herbert's favorite target. And when I mean very quickly, I mean year one, 80 plus catches, over 1,000 yards. Like I think Lad McConkey could have a really good season next year. So I gave that an A. 69, the first Michigan player taken by Jim Harbaugh. And it's not a vanity pick. It's not just because he was a Michigan player. He took arguably the best linebacker available at number 69, Junior Colston or Colson. Sorry, I gave this an A plus. Is it Jeremiah Trotter? No. Is it Peyton Wilson? No. But because it's Jim Harbaugh, I have to give this the benefit of the doubt and say he's going to get more out of Junior Colson than he would have got out of any other linebacker in the entire draft. And when you pair that with the fact that the Chargers needed linebackers so desperately, and also pair that with the fact that it's good value for where Colson was projected to go, it's an A plus pick. It has to be an A plus pick because all the stars are aligning here. And I was really debating on whether to give this their best pick of the whole draft. But as you will see, they really knocked it out of their park with their second set of picks. Number 105, Justin, not going to try and pronounce Bro's last name out of respect, but defensive tackle from Alabama. This is the first pick, their only pick, really, that I think was not. I didn't look, I understand it, right? He was extremely highly graded as a run defender in Alabama, and he also had about 7 sacks, I believe. So he was a very good college player, but I think the value is a little off. I think he probably went a round or two higher than he was projected, maybe a round higher. I saw him projected around 160. So it's a bit of a reach in terms of value. Also, defensive tackle really wasn't on my mind in terms of what the Chargers were looking for. So it wasn't really clicking for me at first, but I see the vision here, and I'll admit this may be a pick I'm wrong on, retrospectively when we look back at this. But for the time being, I'm going to give this a B, but understand this has the potential to become a very, very good pick. Next up, we had Tarheeb Steele out of Maryland. I gave this a B as well. I didn't think he was the best corner on the board, really. That's really what it comes down to here. Um, Physical corner, played well, and also Harbaugh coached several games against him, I should say. So he knows him pretty well, coming from the Big Ten Conference. So he's a physical corner. Nothing really sticks out in terms of size, speed, athleticism, anything like that. But hopefully, you'd say with all the talent they've lost, he should be able to contribute in a year or two. But then at 140, right after that, you took Cam Hart out of Notre Dame. I gave this an A plus. I gave Tarheeb still a B, by the way. I gave Cam Hart an A plus because Cam Hart is a guy who was a projected third round pick, amazing size speed combination, and also was dominant in college against guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. I gave this an A plus because I think Cam Hart has a lot of these traits. I don't know how he fell so far. I thought he was a lock for like a third round, possibly might even sneak into the second round, but he fell into what is this, the fourth, fifth round? I think this is the fifth round. That's incredible value for a guy like Cam Hart. I really was going to give this their steal a draft until we'll get to what happened later. But I love this pick, man. I think he's going to come in and possibly be a starting boundary corner out the gate, which would be incredible value for a fifth round pick. Next up, we got Kamani Vidal, running back out of Troy. You know, I like Vidal a lot. He's a little smaller, 5'8", but he's a physical guy, man. And he also has the speed to, if you give him a crease, give him a seam, he's going to burst out of there. So I gave this a B plus because I did think the Chargers are going to take running back at some point, but you already got Gus Edwards, already got J.K. Dobbins. You throw Kamani Vidal in there. Obviously, Edwards and Dobbins are not known for their health, so I do expect Vidal to see some action in year one, but I'm not sure how much. And you could make a case. At this point, there were so many guys who you could have made an argument for. I'm gonna give it a B plus. I think the value's fine. I think the player's good, but you know, I'm not sure. Could you have gotten a good running back at 253 as well, at 225 as well? I don't know. So I give it a B plus. Brendan Rice in the seventh round. This is arguably the steal of the entire draft. And honestly, it's kind of weird what was happening. It's like as he was falling, because literally every team in the league would have, wanted their team to draft Brendan Rice in the fifth, sixth, seventh round. But even the fourth, third round, people were like Brendan Rice, Brendan Rice. But for some reason, it's like all the fans were like collectively like, oh, the guy's only good because of his last name. He's not actually that good. Where he was pretty good last season. Like he was just undoubtedly a good college football player last season. But so I don't know why he fell. It's not like he was a guy who was a projected fifth, sixth round pick. This guy, by the NFL scouts, by the way, was a projected third round pick. Okay, so it's not at all like he was just a fourth, fifth, sixth round guy who people are hyping up because of his name. Obviously, being the son of Jerry Rice, people are gonna have a type of a sense about you that maybe they think you're better than you are. But man, he was a projected third rounder. It's not like, I don't really get the hate on him out of nowhere as he was starting to fall. So I think this is absolutely a massive steal by the Chargers. I had to give it an A plus. They needed more help at receiver, and they took a third round caliber guy at 225. It has to be in debate for the biggest steal of the entire draft. So it's an amazing pick by the Chargers, and their third A plus already. And then 253, you take Cornelius Johnson, obviously Michigan player. But there's some things here I like about Johnson. I gave it a B plus overall because at first I'm like, I'm not sure if he's going to make the roster. But then I looked at it and I saw, well, he's a projected sixth round guy, actually. He has really good size. He's a vertical threat, can stretch the field. And obviously, same thing with Junior Colson. I know Harbaugh is going to get more out of these guys than possibly anybody else. So I like the pick. I like this row of picks. Their last four picks was amazing. To get this much value from the fifth to seventh round is insane. So overall here, when you look at it, the distribution here, obviously the Chargers did a lot. Three receivers, two of which I think are going to make day one impacts. Obviously, Joe Alt, Kamani Vidal. The Chargers did a lot to improve their offense. I thought their secondary also got better. And Junior Colson and the Alabama defensive tackle. I think the Chargers knocked it out the park with this draft. Sorry, it's a 6.78. I rounded up to give it an A because I thought they were just that good. It was really possibly the best we've seen so far from any AFC team. So take that for what you will. I thought it was amazing. Next up, we got the Broncos here, who all right. So they took Bo Nix at number 12, right? I gave it an A, and I gave it an A because you have to understand here their options were extremely limited because it's not like they had another first round pick like the Vikings. It's not like they even had a second round pick to move up. It was now or never. If you didn't draft Bo Nix right here, who knows if you would have had another chance to be able to even move back up to get him. So Was he the best player available at number 12? Obviously, no. But they desperately, and I mean desperately, needed quarterback, and he was the best option. So they took him at 12. Obviously, nobody thought Bo Nix was going in the top 12, but I don't mind it at all. So I gave it an A because you have to understand situationally, as soon as five QBs went in the top 10, everything is out the window, right? Well, the preconceived notions about value and stuff like that are out the door. So I don't mind Bo Nix at 12 whatsoever because you walked away with your quarterback, right? We thought they were going to draft quarterback anyways. They walked away with their quarterback. So is it, if all things considered, if like let's say for example, Penix, McCarthy, and Bo Nix were on the board, would they have drafted Bo Nix? Who knows? But they seem pretty confident in him, and I'm also pretty confident in Bo Nix as well as the fit in Sean Payton's offense. So I gave that an A. I really like that pick. Number 76, we got Jonah Ellis, edge rusher out of Utah. First of all, he was a dominant player. Last season at Utah, he won some games simply by himself because he was just that good coming off the edge. I gave this an A because you lost guys like Bradley Chubb. You're still trying to find that replacement. I think Jonah Ellis could definitely develop into their premier pass rusher. So I gave that an A. At first, I gave it an A minus because I was like, damn, Troy Franklin's available right here. That probably would have been the better pick. But, in hindsight, at 102, they traded up with my Seahawks to get Troy Franklin. And it's an A plus. It's their best pick. It's one of the best moves in the entire draft because what's if you draft a young QB, right? What's a way to make him more accustomed or to break him in per se to the offense and just to the team, the NFL? How about you give him his number one receiver, his favorite target from college? I think that's an amazing move by the Broncos. First of all, it's a steal. It's an absolute steal. Troy Franklin, I cannot believe he made it out of the second round. And to fall to the top of the fourth round is just ridiculous. So it's incredible value. But when you pair that with, teaming him back up with his college quarterback, it's going to make the process so much easier for both of them. So yeah, man, it's an amazing pick. When they made this move, I'm like, damn, that's that's dangerous. And look at these first three picks, man. A plus. I mean, it's only three. I get it, but that's incredible. And then another A plus. They took Chris Abrams Drain at 145. This is a guy who was a third round pick in my opinion. I have no idea how he fell to the middle of the fifth round. And when you pair that with the fact that the Broncos needed help at cornerback desperately, besides Pat Surtain, they have nobody. So this is an amazing pick. Chris Abrams Drain now is able to come in and basically play the same role he did in college, where I obviously got Ennis Rakestraw guarding the number one receiver. And in the NFL, you're going to have Pat Surtain guarding the number one receiver. So Abrams Drain is going to be able to slot right in and guard the number two, similar to what he was doing in college. And I love this pick. It's an A plus in terms of value, in terms of need, and in terms of fit. Everything about this pick, it checks all the boxes. So I love this pick on all levels. And the Broncos' first four picks, you got two A pluses and two A's. So they knocked it out of the park so far. 147, he took Audric Estime. I don't mind this at all. I don't think there's as much resistance in terms of him being able to get to that starting spot. Obviously, you got Javonte Williams, but between the injury history, I think he's a good player. But 3 years in, I don't think his body of work has shown enough to be like, oh, there's no way he's keeping the job. Or you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't think you can say so far that he just has that job 100% on lock, is what I'm trying to say. So I think Estime is going to come in, be their power back, be their goal line back, and eventually, because he doesn't offer much as a receiving, like as a receiver out of the backfield. So he's a first, second down type guy, short yardage type guy. But I think, third and long, second and long, Javonte Williams, that might be his type of a role. So we'll see. I like the pick though. Good value, like the player. I gave that a B plus. Devon Vele, good size, not necessarily projected to be drafted. He was like, right at the edge there. I don't think he's going to make the roster. I think he's a training camp body, practice squad. Maybe he makes that special teams, but he's really big. He's like 6'4", so, but he's also like 26 years old. So I don't really see the potential for Devon Vele out of Utah. So I didn't grade that pick. I thought it was their worst pick though. And then 256, he took Nick Gargiolu. Amazing mustache, by the way. You can't see it there. Number 69 too. Like the guy has it all going for him as an offensive lineman. But you lost Lloyd Cushenberry in free agency. That's your starting center. So I expected them to take a center here in the draft, and you got one in the seventh round. projected seventh round guy. Who knows if he makes the roster? But the fact that you took a position of need before the draft ended, I like that. So I gave it a B. And here's how it grades out in the end. Their first four picks, obviously, were just incredible. So it actually grades out to a 6.92, which might be one of the highest grades we've seen just in general, because their first four picks were that good. Troy Franklin and Chris Abrams drained back to back in the fourth and fifth round is insanity. So, yeah, the Broncos had an incredible draft. I can't hate on it really in any way. Next up, we got the Raiders here, and the Raiders definitely it was shocking. So somehow, right, Brock Bowers falls to number 13. I did not predict this in the slightest. I was bamboozled when this happened. I thought there was no way he made it out of the top six. So for him to make it to 13 was just ridiculous. And the Raiders just said, fuck it, we're drafting Brock Bowers. I know we drafted Michael Mayer last season, but hey, let's just get the best two tight ends in the last two draft classes, right? Arguably. So I like this pick, man. At first, I was like, man, the value doesn't really make sense. Well, the need doesn't really make sense. Everything else, you love it in terms of the player, the position he was drafted in, but they're gonna figure it out, right? You get Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer, you just run a bunch of two tight end sets. That's all it is. They're both really good blockers too. They're both really good blockers. So the Raiders probably have the best combo at tight end right now in the league in terms of if you come out with one receiver, two tight ends, five linemen, obviously. Let me do the math here. Two receivers, two tight ends, five linemen, quarterback, running back. You don't know what they're doing. They could do absolutely anything out of that formation because you have four good pass catchers and you also got a potential seven good blockers for a running back. So the Raiders now gave themselves a lot of options and it's going to make it a lot easier for Gardner Minshew because that's who I'm assuming the starter is going to be. So I like this pick. The more I think about it, I gave it an A. Only reason I didn't give it an A plus is because obviously you could have had your pick of any defensive player, any really most offensive linemen. So I think they could have done things that would have made more sense in terms of team need, but they drafted the best player available. So I gave that an A. Jackson Powers Johnson somehow fell all the way to number 44. I gave this an A plus. Obviously, he was the guy projected top 25, just kept falling, and the Raiders picked him up at number 44. I gave this an A plus because you got a guy who is the best interior offensive lineman in the draft, and he has the versatility to play center or guard. I don't know what he's going to play for the Raiders, but whatever he plays, he's going to do it well, right? And I gave that an A plus because you just draft with your first two picks, you just improved your offense so much, and it makes it so much easier for the running backs and the quarterback. So yeah, man, their first two picks, I think the Raiders really made it easier for whoever the quarterback is going to be. Number 77 here, they took Delmar Glaze, an offensive tackle out of Maryland. This is a C plus because I don't mind, the position of taking an offensive tackle, but the problem here is that Delmar Glaze was like a projected seventh round pick. Okay, it's a massive reach, one of the biggest reaches in the entire draft, and I don't understand it. I think there were obviously much better tackles available. There were some really good DBs available, and Delmar Glaze, I don't really understand what the Raiders see in him. It's just it's a massive reach on a player. So I gave this a C plus. This was a rough one for the Raiders. Next up, we got DeCameron Richardson, cornerback out of Mississippi State, and I gave this a B plus because obviously the Raiders needed corner. They lost Amik Robertson to the Lions, and they really just don't have much in terms of cornerback right there. So I think Richardson is solid value. I think he's an explosive playmaker. He's going to take some chances. He's going to get burned sometimes, but I think they just need to take shots on corners at this point. But I think it's good value too. So I gave it a B plus. I don't know if I would have taken him. I think there were some other players available, better corners available, but to take a corner and a good corner with this pick, I think is what the Raiders should have done. So I gave that a B plus. Moving on, we got Tommy Eichenberg, linebacker from Ohio State. The value on this guy, for some reason, I thought it said on ESPN that he was a projected like seventh round pick. I just wholeheartedly disagree with that. I saw him as a fourth, fifth round type of a guy, possibly even a third round guy. So to get him at 148, I actually thought was a very good value. He plays with some real dog in him, uh, as a run defender, moving laterally across the field. I think he does it all in terms of a run defending linebacker and also makes some plays in terms of getting his hands on the ball, breaking up passes, not the worst in coverage. So I gave this an A minus because they definitely need help at linebacker. Their whole defense, honestly, outside the defensive line at this point, because you got Wilson Crosby and Christian Wilkins, that the back 6 to 7 definitely needs some improvement. So I think Eichenberg is going to help them in one way or another. Dylan Lava 208. This is interesting, right? Because played at New Hampshire, obviously. So I don't know if it's the FCS level or Division two or whatever it is. I think it's FCS. He was dominant. I think he led his entire is it the entire country at whatever level he played at. He led the country in yards, I believe, like just yards from scrimmage and rushing yards. So he was a dominant player at his level. There were obviously Division one running backs available at this spot that were also dominant. So the argument there becomes, who would you rather have? I'm not going to hate on this pick because I definitely think they needed another running back because I don't know if Zamir White is enough by himself. So I like the position taken. The player taken is what's interesting. I'm not going to hate on the pick, though. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, this guy was that good at whatever level he played at. Give him a shot. So I gave that a B, and I'm really interested to see what he can do, especially in the preseason. I think where he's going to get a lot of opportunities. 223, we got Trey Taylor, safety from Air Force. I believe he was the Doak Walker winner from last season. So I don't know how he fell to this spot in the seventh round. So it's a great pick in my opinion. He's a great run defender, close to the line of scrimmage. I gave that a B plus. They need help obviously across all levels defensively. So I gave it a B plus. I like the value. I like the player. So good job by the Raiders there. And then 229, MJ Devonshire. I gave this a B plus as well. He's an explosive player out of the secondary. I think he has like 3 total touchdowns the last 2 years in terms of pick sixes and like punt returns. So probably a special teams guy right away, but also has the potential to develop into a starting corner for them. So I like that pick as well. I gave that a B plus. I thought they really, you know, the first 2 picks I think were really good. Glaze, not so much, but after that, I think they kind of pulled it back. So they grade out to a 6.19. And I did decide to give them a B plus instead of an A minus. I thought, you could certainly make the argument that it was an A minus, but I decided to just keep it as a B plus and say, really good draft overall. And then finally we got the Chiefs. Let me turn my mic off and on before I get into this. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. I'm gonna start doing that now instead of just waiting for my mic to fucking die every time. All right. Getting into the Chiefs, obviously, amazing team. Their holes, I would say, are the offensive line, well, receiver, cornerback, and then offensive line. So let's see how they handled that. They made the move to trade up with the Bills to make sure they got their hands on Xavier Worthy. This was the most obvious pick in the entire draft, the Chiefs getting Xavier Worthy. Obviously, with the issues with Rashee Rice is having, I expect him to be gone for at least 12 games next season. So you definitely are going to need help at receiver. Moving up to get Worthy, it's an A plus pick, right? It's the speed that they have not had for years, ever since Tyreek left. I'm not saying he's Tyreek, but he has Tyreek Hill speed. I mean, that's just point blank. That's what he has. So the Chiefs are going to find ways to get this guy the ball, and he's gonna make some plays where it's just like, uh-oh, how did we let the Chiefs get him? So I'm concerned for that as just an NFL fan, but you can't deny how good of a pick this is. It's an A plus. I wouldn't have done anything differently. There were some good players on the board, but none of them were Xavier Worthy. So I'm fearful for what the Chiefs are going to do with him. Number 63, Kingsley Suamataia. The fans were not so happy with this pick, and I understand cornerback certainly I think was more of a need than offensive tackle. They drafted a guy last year out of Oklahoma, I think at the 4th round, but I think they definitely need help on the offensive line. I'm not sure of Suamataia. I think he can play guard as well. So if nothing else, you got a guy who can potentially come in and be a starter at guard and hopefully take Jawan Taylor's role in the future at that right tackle position. So I gave it an A minus. The value I think was good. I had him as a 2nd round guy the whole time. So to get him at the end of the 2nd round is actually good value in my opinion. but obviously not a cornerback. And since you already drafted a guy last year at tackle, I understand the conflict there. So I gave it an A minus. 131, you took Jared Wiley. I thought this was their worst pick overall because there were some really good corners available right here. For example, Chris Abrams Drain, Cam Hart just sitting right there at 131, and you passed up on both those guys to take Jared Wiley. And I understand the vision, right, of you wanting a replacement for Travis Kelce because who knows how long he's going to play. I think 2 years is the number for Travis Kelce. But you already had some options. You got Irv Smith, you got Noah Gray, Jared Wiley being your the fourth tight end in that room. I don't see it in my opinion. So I didn't like that pick much, but he's a good player. Okay, so that's the reason I'm not giving this a C or a C plus because I think Jared Wiley is a pretty good tight end, but I don't know if he's actually going to see the field much for the Chiefs. Number 133, though, they took Jaden Hicks. I like this a lot. He had a second round grade on him as a safety, and you could make the case that he's like the second best safety in the entire draft because he's just that good. He has no flaws, honestly. He has great size at 6'2". He can do everything you want out of a strong safety. So I gave this an A because I also gave this a steal of the draft because I think he does everything you could possibly want out of him. He's going to be a day one starter, I think, and it's just amazing value for the fifth round. So I don't see any flaws with this pick that I can think of. Only reason I didn't give it an A plus is because Chris Abrams, Drain, Cam Hart would have been A pluses at this very spot. So, that's the only thing holding this pick back from being an amazing pick. 159, you took Hunter Norzad, center from Penn State, transferred from forget where he Cornell, I think actually transferred from somewhere else. Has experience playing guard and tackle. So here's another guy who has he's played everywhere really on the offensive line. And if nothing else, he's going to be depth. I don't expect him to start at all for the Chiefs, but being a replacement at any position is incredibly valuable for any team. So I gave that a B plus. And at number 211, you took Kamal Hadden, cornerback from Tennessee, the first cornerback they've selected. Hadden has weaknesses in terms of being a run defender. He was injured last season, I believe, too, but in coverage, undeniably good. He has fine size, fine athleticism, and he's just simply good as a cover corner, which is what the Chiefs are looking for here. I gave that an A minus. If you put him deep, don't ask him to come up. Don't put him in the nickel. Put him outside. I like the value here, so I gave that an A minus. And obviously, they had to take a corner eventually, so they finally addressed that. Number 248, CJ Hansen at a Holy Cross. I don't expect the guy to make the roster, so I did not grade that pick. So overall for the Chiefs here, grades out to a 6.5, A minus. A lot of help to the offensive line. Obviously, Xavier Worthy is the star of this draft. And besides that, honestly, I think Xavier Worthy, Jaden Hicks are going to be day one starters. Besides that, though, I don't really think any of these guys are going to make big impacts day one. But guys like Suamataia, Jared Wiley, potentially, we could really see the value there. Kamal Hayden as well. So here's how it stacks up, man. This is interesting because obviously I know the Broncos, I gave them a higher grade than the Chargers, but they only had like 6 picks. You know what I mean? So I think the Chargers, because of the volume and because of the amount of picks they had like 3 or 4 more than the Broncos, I think. So I think because of the volume, I'm gonna actually put the Chargers at number one, even though per pick the Broncos had a higher grade. And honestly, these might be the 2 best grades I've given for any AFC team. So understand it's really close, and they both did amazing. But I think I'm gonna give the Chargers the slight nod for their draft. The Chiefs I had at the third spot, A minus, very good draft as well. And the Raiders, they get a B plus, by the way. This probably would have been second place or maybe even first place for some divisions. So that just goes to show how good of a draft this whole division had. So put the Raiders at number 4. They had a B plus. They had a good draft as well. Obviously, their top 2 picks carried. But yeah, man, that's gonna be it for this video. Possibly the best drafting division. So leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. But most importantly, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Only one more, man. Only one more to go. So I'll see you on the next one, man. Peace.